Alright, Chapter 1. Chapter 1, The World of Borderline Personality Disorder. Idea 2. How Doctors Diagnose Psychiatric Disease. Alright, you ready? This is Idea 2 in Chapter 1. Before 1980, DSM-1 and 2, which are the Psychiatric Disorder Bible dictionaries, describe psychiatric illness in descriptive terms. However, starting with DSM-3, psychiatric disorders have been defined along structured categorical paradigms. That is, several symptoms have been proposed to be suggestive of a particular diagnosis, and when a certain number of these criteria are met, the individual is considered to fulfill the categorical requirements for diagnosis. Interestingly, in the 4 revisions of DSM since 1980, and this book was first made in 1979, only minor adjustments have been made to the definitional criteria for BPD. As we shall see shortly, 9 criteria are associated with BPD, and an individual qualifies for the diagnosis if he exhibits 5 or more of the 9. The categorical paradigm has stimulated controversy among psychiatrists, especially regarding the diagnosis of personality disorders. Unlike most other psychiatric illnesses, personality disorders are generally considered to develop in early childhood and to persist for extended periods. These personality traits tend to be enduring and change only gradually over time. However, the categorical system of definitions may result in an unrealistically abrupt diagnostic change. In relation to BPD, a borderline patient who exhibits 5 symptoms of the BPD theoretically ceases to be considered borderline if just 1 symptom changes. Such a precipitous cure seems inconsistent with the concept of personality. For this reason and others, some researchers and clinicians have suggested to adjusting the DSM to a dimensional approach to diagnosis. Such a model would attempt to determine what could be called degrees of BPD, since clearly some borderline individuals function at a higher level than others. These authors suggest that rather than concluding that an individual is or is not borderline, the disorder should be recognized along a spectrum. This approach would put different weights on some of the defining criteria, depending upon which systems are shown by research to be more prevalent and enduring. Such a method could develop a representative, pure borderline prototype, which could standardize measures based on how closely a patient matches the description. A dimensional approach might be used to measure functional impairment. In this way, a higher or lower functioning borderline patient would be identified by her ability to manage her usual task of living. Another methodology would gauge particular traits such as impulsivity, novelty seeking, reward dependence, harm avoidance, neuroticism, such as capturing such characteristics as vulnerability to stress, poor impulse control, anxiety, mood lability, etc., that have been associated with BPD. Such adaptations may more accurately measure changes in degrees of improvement rather than merely determining the presence or absence of the disorder. To understand the difference between these two definitional approaches, consider the way we perceive gender. The determination that one is male or female is a categorical definition based on objective physical, genetic, and hormonal factors. Designations of masculinity or femininity, however, are dimensional concepts influenced by personal, cultural, and other less objective criteria. Objective is like a square is a square, 4 sides. And subjective is like the cat is good or bad. 3-dimensional models that have already been proposed and are being refined are described in Appendix A. These include the American Psychiatric Association's alternative DSM-5 model for personality disorders, AMPD, and the World Health Organization International Classification of Diseases, ICD-11, and the National Institute of Mental Health Research Domain Criteria, RDOC. It is likely that future iterations of DSM will incorporate dimensional features of the diagnosis. Alright. I'll come back with the next idea in the book, which are the signs that you have borderline personality, yes or no.